So September to October, that's not just English, is it? That's not just an English lesson. That's, I mean, yeah, I get that. It's that repetitive, consistent approach to questions, but words like innocent and inferior, they're from the articles, they're from those texts. Going from things like, where was it I noticed? Might be on the next one actually, but the next one you can see such a forcing vocabulary in, because that's what the teachers remember. What is it? What tense? Remember what you've been taught. Remember what you could. We picked up a pattern of a lot of the texts that we've chosen have that set the scene at the start, and a lot of the texts that are used in form set the scene at the start, move to your character, or introduce your character first, then set the scene. So our kids are following. They're following that structure that they've then developed or picked up from having just constant exposure to texts that are free, that have been carefully selected for them. We also asked staff to send us, or I asked staff to send me recommendations of things that they want me to turn into the R&R, and I asked my year 10s and 11s in particular, what kind of things are you interested in? What do you like to read? What don't you like to read? What's boring? What's not? And I tried to put as much and take as much of that out. So register and read. If you downloaded the original version 3 years ago, download the new one, because it's changed since then. This one, so we had things like a boat, where people scuba dived from set off in the ocean, gleaming blue sea. So that's the first time this student wrote this in September, and then I think this is about 3 or 4 months later, if I remember rightly. But you get as well, and I've deliberately chosen these ones to show you because I know, and these are not my group, but this is somebody who has used the register and read of, well, where's the paragraphing, where's the, what came next after you learned about Winston in 1984? Did you learn about his house first, and his room, or did you learn about him? Did the writer, did Orwell, build up this massive description before you then introduced to Winston? Here's Winston, isn't it? So we're mirroring that as well, and we're getting students to find the one that they like best. What's the best thing you've read this year in Register and Read? Could you mirror that in your writing? So you go from that clumsy, a boat where people scuba dive from set off in the gleaming blue sea, so tanks were filled up ready to be used, to things like adventurous waves, and then sweeping the group further and further backwards. Full stop, every time a wave went over the top of them, bubbles left over, leaving fizzing sound, murky green seaweed, and this is set 5 of 7. The beastly grey creature opened his immense jaws, the red jaws, and they're just, I know, I have to explain to people, this is not bad, this kind of stealing, this kind of magpie is really good. Ready to attack the man, he opened his massive jaw, ready to bite him. So because he'd read Jaws, an extract from Jaws, he's managing to then put that into his text. Some of the stuff about context and history that they're learning as well is also coming across now in the text. So we're hearing students say, especially with rhetorical devices, so we've got Winston Churchill in there, Martin Luther King's in there, Hitler's in there. Because one thing students don't understand is the power of Hitler's words and how mesmerising, hypnotising he was, and the reasons behind why he managed to get an entire nation to believe him. And they don't, it's a bit like people are scared to show that on screen, they're a bit scared to show what he said. So there's a speech from Hitler in there, and the rhetorical devices he used and the lies he told to manipulate his whole audience. And then you've got your Martin Luther King and the viewpoint writing, the viewpoint speaking, our spoken language is fantastic. The oracy is developed because they are getting every single week a text that enriches their knowledge.